Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we are back to working over here on the big monster cane mill project that we've been working on for quite some time. This has been a big project. We still got a long way to go, but we are making progress. And in the last episode we poured these top bearing halves for the main drum over there on that mill. And today what I want to do is I want to work on getting these things kind of finished up, put in place, and actually get the drum in there and test fit everything, just make sure everything's going to work like it should. Everything should be fine. The bottom halves came out great. These look like they're going to be just fine, but we do have some work to kind of get them all tuned up and ready to go before we really kind of move on to the next step on this project. So I've got these bearing halves here ready to roll. Let's get in here and start getting them fixed up. So step one is we need to kind of get these gaskets that we put in here, spacers, shims out, and guys, we're going to have to remake these. That's not unusual to have multiple sets of these because, as you can see, the babbitt kind of poured around them, and we need to get all that cut down flush. But so we're going to kind of pull all this old stuff out, and we'll just have to make another set when we put them back together. And I need to get in here and with a file and whatever it takes to get this stuff cut out of here. We got on this bearing here, there was actually a little gap down below it, and the babbitt leaked down in there and kind of filled that gap in. They're not all quite this bad. In fact, that's probably the worst one that did that. But again, that babbitt's going to go wherever it can go to, you know, it's got to have room to, or you know, if there's a void, it's going to fill it because it's in a liquid state, in that molten state. So let me get these out of here first, and then we'll work on trimming that babbitt up. We need to trim this babbitt up, and I'm going to try something I've never done before, but I got some horseshoe nippers. I'm going to see if I can just kind of get in here and kind of clip this stuff. This metal is fairly soft. I don't know if it's soft enough that's going to let me clip that much. Doesn't look like it, but I'm trying anything to make this easier. See if I can do little small bites. All right, we were able to get most of that cut off of there. But there is still a little bit left, and again, I'm going to take a horseshoer's rasp and we'll just file this off, that last little bit off. Make it flush with the bottom of the bearing. All right, I think we got those knocked out. So the next thing I want to do is like I did with the bottoms of these bearings, I want to come in here with a bearing scraper and just lightly kind of just hit these. There's just a little bit of irregularities in them. I'm not really scraping them for fit right now. I'm just kind of smoothing them up a little bit. And there's a little bit of roughness in a couple of places, which is not unusual on babbitt bearings. And you know, when you can scrape for fit if needed, where you glue these up and like you would if you were scraping anything, you know, you scrape the high points until you get a good fit. I don't think we're going to have to do that on these bearings. We'll see when we get the shaft put in here and see how they go back together. But right now, like I said, I'm just trying to just hit those little areas that look a little rough to the eye. And with scraping, you're going to end up with some little oil grooves, which is kind of what you want. We're going to also be putting some oil grooves in here, but you don't want 100% contact. You want to have, excuse me, high points and low points. So this is not, we're blindly doing this, so this isn't really the ideal way of doing it, but for what I'm trying to accomplish here, I just want to smooth it up right now. Well, up next here, guys, I want to cut out my gaskets, and I decided that instead of just cutting them out by hand this time, that I was going to cheat and use my laser that I've got. I've got a Creality Falcon 2 Pro laser. So what I did was I just went and I drew out a pattern for my gaskets. As you can see there, I actually drew this up in Fusion 360. I just sketched it out, and then I saved that sketch as a DXF file, which I was able to import into the Lightburn software, and everything stays the same size and everything else just right out of that DXF file. So it works out really sweet. I can use my CAD program to draw. I could draw it all out here in Lightburn. I'm just not that familiar with this software, so it was easier for me to do it in Fusion 360. I didn't show doing that, but I need 8 of these, and I got them all laid out, and this is just kind of looking, my camera, I've got that piece of gasket paper back there behind it. Same stuff, that blue stuff we made it out of before, and we're going to use a laser to cut it out. So let's see how this goes. So this is the Creality Falcon 2 Pro laser, and it's for cutting and engraving in wood. It doesn't engrave in metal. This is not a fiber laser. It's just a diode laser, I guess is what it is. I'm not exactly that up on lasers, but it will cut, this gasket paper no fine. In fact, I actually took a little test piece here and did got my settings where it was cutting all the way through. At first, it didn't cut all the way through, so it slowed my laser down a little bit, and I've already tested that to make sure it's going to work. I've got my stuff laid in there in the right place. Like I said, there's a camera up in the top of this that will kind of help you position it, overlay your part on there so you make sure you got things centered up. So we're going to button this thing up and cut it out. Let's see how it goes. This will be the first time I've really used this laser other than playing around with it. So I'm going to close the lid on it. And let me reposition that camera where you guys hopefully see what's going on. Here goes nothing. I'm going to start her up. Here it is. So we're making our first cut up through there. This is actually one of the things that I really kind of wanted this laser for, was for doing gaskets. Oftentimes I'm having to cut these things out by hand, and sometimes it's a fairly complex design I need to cut. This one here is pretty simple and straightforward, but this should work very good for the application here. So curious to see how it goes. Like I said, I did just test cut it on, okay, it's cutting out one of the circles now. There it goes. That bar's in the way, I can kind of see it, but I'm making a cut straight across. I'm separating the top ones from the bottom ones. I'm not sure how it determines the order of the cuts. It may have been the order that I drew them. I don't think so, because I think I drew all the squares and then drew the circles. So there's probably a way to control that if you need to. But again, I don't know enough about the Lightburn software right now to manipulate it very much. But it's going to be fine. This should cut out just fine. So now we're cutting across that bottom. Going up the back side. I got my laser set on 100% and my speed is at 47.2 inches per minute. And I just played around with my settings again on some scrap gasket paper that I had until I was cutting all the way through. And I think we're just about done here. Finish this line up. Depending on the strength of your laser and the speed that you're going, you can set it to do all kinds of different things. All right, I'm just going to push this back out of the way. And look at there. Go, it just pops right out. And there we go, we have our shims made. That was easy. I like this. So this is the first time I've really had a chance to use this in a real world application. I like it. And that is going to work good. Look at that. Man, perfect fit. I like it. I like it. There's 2 of these on each side. So anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but wanted to try those out. There we go. I like it. All right, we're going to get our mandrel out of here and get ready to put the drum back in. See if I can get above this and pick it straight up. So I think the next thing I want to do is get the drum back up in here, get the bearing caps on, and just test my fit, make sure everything's going. I'm going to probably have to adjust the shims in here to get it tightened down just right. But I think that before we put the drum on, I'm going to go ahead and try to get the big gear that mounts on the this side over here on the drum, because the next step is going to be starting to line up the Babbitt bearings over here for the drive system, and we're going to need that gear in place to do that. And I could go ahead and put the drum up here now, test everything out, then I'd have to take the drum off, put the gear back on, and put it back on. I really only want to do it once. It's going to have to come back off again when we do our painting and all that, but for right now, it's just a handling thing. I think it'd be better just to go ahead and get it on there, and we can test our fittings fit with the gear on it just fine. So I'm not envying having to get that gear back on here, and I've been thinking about how best to do it. But we're going to get set up to do that next, I think. But to do that, I'm going to have to rearrange some stuff. Basically, I need to be able to bring the gear in. It's on a pallet. I have to bring my skid steer down here with the forks to do that. I'm going to have to get back here with the crane to do the lifting and all that. I think what I'm going to do is just take the pallet jack. We're going to move this casting out of the way for right now so that we can kind of work on the getting this gear done up underneath the crane, and then we'll put everything back in here to get it installed. So yeah, another episode of shop Jenga here, rearranging the shop to be able to do the work we need to do. So I'm gonna get my pallet jack. I should be able to move these around. Probably not gonna show that, but we'll get things rearranged and then get that big gear and start working on getting it mounted back on there. So I got the big gear in the shop. We just were able to go up there. I had this in my storage building, so I took my skid steer with the forks and we came in here and just picked it up, brought it down here, rearranged with the pallet jack inside the shop here. And this is now more or less ready to go back on there. This has been sent off, been sandblasted and primed just like everything else that I had. So my game plan, I think, is going to be I'm going to get the big drum sitting straight up and down, kind of like we did before when we were pressing this gear off. And I'm just going to pick this up flat like this, and we're just going to drop it down onto the drum. So I need to get this rigged for picking it up, and I need to kind of get it picked up a little bit to get some straps on it. So I'm just going to come in here with the gantry crane, pick up the corner. We'll probably put some 2x4s under it so we can get some lifting straps under it, and then I think I'll move this out of the way, get the drum set up, and go from there. So again, just moving things around. I just want to lift this up enough to kind of be able to get some straps under this so that we can do a proper lift. I'll put one in this corner, put one in this corner, and drop that back down. I need to go pick up the other side. Block right there. Put one right there. Now I can get my straps up underneath it. But I'm going to move it out of the way right now. We'll get the drum set up, and then we'll pick this up and drop it on there. All right, we're going to start by lifting this drum up, kind of on one edge, and then I'm going to put a strap on the other side and use the other gantry crane to kind of level it out. The same process I did last time I had to do this. So we'll kind of get it up and off the ground first. Now I'll just lower it down to the ground here. Kind of trying to bring both sides down somewhat at the same rate. There we go. And it's just kind of balancing right now, standing straight up. I'm gonna leave the straps on it. I'm gonna go get my sawhorses and we'll get them in here and we'll kind of get this thing trapped and captured where it can't fall over. So let's kind of catch up to where we're at here. I've got the drum, of course, set up on its end, and we came in here and got my big heavy-duty sawhorses. These are made out of angle iron. These things weigh probably 150 pounds a piece. And then I've got screwed down to the top this bracing in here that's supporting this. It's not going anywhere. It's holding it up. So this is good. And then I've got 4 straps on the big gear that we can pick this up flat and hopefully just come over here and drop it right down on here. I did, when we were turning the journals, I did just barely skim the surface of these so that hopefully it will slide on there fairly easily. I do also need to take a something and clean the primer out from the inside of that bore so that we got metal on metal. I'll do that once I kind of get it picked up. But I think we're ready to do the lift and get ready to hopefully drop this down on here, and we'll see how much trouble it is to get this gear back on the shaft. Hopefully not too terrible. So let's lift it up here. I've got the 3-ton chain hoist, and this gear weighs nowhere close to that. I don't know how much it weighs. My guess is probably 700-800 pounds. So we'll bring it on up. So I do need to get that primer out. I'm just using a die grinder here, and I've got this is just a piece of 1/4 inch straight piece of steel that has a little slot made in there with a hacksaw. I'll put some sandpaper in there, just fold it over, make a little flap wheel out of it. And we can now come in here, put that down in there, and go around and around and clean it up. All right, that should help kind of clean that up a little bit. Now we're ready to lift it the rest of the way on up and get ready to drop it on down in there. All right, I got you guys looking in from up above, and I'm going to kind of get this around where my key is more or less lined up. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some anti-seize and put on this shaft just so that if anybody ever has to take this thing apart again in the future, hopefully it won't give them as much trouble as it gave me coming apart on this last one. So I'm just going to put some on here, and this should just kind of help keep a layer between the 2 pieces, and like I said, make it easier to come apart in the future if it ever needs to. Yeah, we're coming down on that shaft now. That is a pretty tight fit on there, but the weight of it is letting it drop down. We got a good alignment. And I think what I need to do now is figure out what gap I need between these 2 pieces so that we can get that shaft in the right place and get the key put in. Now we're getting ready to put this all back together here, key it in place, but I've decided I'm going to make a little modification to this. Normally you just have a key that goes in here that keys all this together, but I want to make sure this thing is good and tight. That key is in there, and the key is not so much wedged, but it's tightened in place. And to do that, we're going to use a set screw. I'm going to use a 5/8 set screw here that will just go in there and tighten up against that key. And hopefully it won't be as big of an issue to get apart if we ever have to take this thing back apart instead of being wedged so much like it was before. So I'm going to drill and tap a hole in here for a 5/8 tap. I'm going to start with a 3/8 inch hole, then I'll drill it out to, I think it's 17-30 seconds is the tap size, and we'll get that tapped out, and then we'll install our key. So let's get this done. All right. Now we just need to tap it. It's going to be a process here, guys. I'm going to have to pull this tap out and clean it from time to time, I think, just because it's such a deep, got so much waste to get out of there, and it's got to go so deep into it. But we'll get there. I'm using a socket here, 8-point socket, which will drive that square tang. I don't have room for a tap handle to swing around here. I'm just getting back down to where we were here. All right, now we're cutting threads again. And I'm going to continue on. This is going to take a little bit of time, going just a little bite at a time here, but we'll get there. All right, we got that all the way in, and I'm going to cheat bringing it out. I'm going to use my little power tool here. Sure beats cranking it out by hand. All right, I think we are ready to put our wedge in and our key in and put it in place here. It looks like I need to come up just a touch. All right, we're ready to drive our wedge in here. And it's hit bottom. We'll tighten up our set screw, and I think we'll have this set in place. All right, I think we're good. All right, now I think we can set this whole thing down and see if we can get it up on the machine. Let me get my shop vac and clean this up, and we'll be back. And I think we're ready to lay this back down, so I'm going to pull my cribbing out of here. All right, we are letting this down. I just got down to these two straps holding the big gear on, and I'm just trying to get it down to the ground right now. And we're going to pick up the drum and the gear simultaneously and basically put the main casting up underneath it. All right, we are suspended. I can kind of position this a little bit better. And what I need to do now is basically take it up so that we can, and I'm just going to move the whole casting up underneath it for us to drop this back down. That's my game plan anyway, so give me some time to get this thing positioned. We'll go up with one side, and we'll go up with the other side a little bit. So I got the main casting base back up underneath it, or over here at it, to where we can get it underneath this. So Still got to come up a little bit. I've got to be able to basically clear these with the shaft. I can kind of, I think, fish this one in, I'm hoping, because they are up a little bit higher. But let's take it on up some more. In. All right, let's come down with it now. Kind of see where I'm trying to get that down into. And I'm trying to keep the wheel somewhat level here as we ease down into here. All right, what's going on here? All right, looks like I need a little bit more gap between the drum and the wheel, but I think I can fix that. We just need to hopefully loosen everything up, and I can get a little jack in between here and kind of press that out. But I need to get all the weights supported properly before we do that. All right, I think we got weight supported. And like I said, we just need to open that gap up ever so slightly. So what I've got here is a little porta-pack, a little hydraulic jack press, whatever, and I got a little flat pancake jack that's in here. I had to shim it up, but I should be able to I've loosened up that set screw, and I just need to open this up just a little bit. I can already see it wanting to kind of drop down in there a little bit more. So now I think it's going to go. I just needed just a little bit more clearance of what I had in there. And I'm going to loosen this back up. We'll take that out and see if we can drop it the rest of the way down in there. Yeah, we're going down in it now. It was just ever so slightly too tight. And this has got to drop down in pretty straight because there's just not a whole lot of clearance in it. We're down on that side. And we are down on this side. All right. Get our straps out of here. I did forget to oil these before we put them back together, but hopefully we can get it to turn and that'll pull some of that oil around. And now I also, since I have the gear on this, I should have a little bit of leverage. I might be able to turn these, oh yeah, by hand. And that is actually turning pretty easy, all things considered. I mean, it's taking some force, but there's a lot of weight on these bearings. Let me put a little bit more oil in there. That feels good. All right, I think we're ready to put our bearing caps on and tighten them up and see if we can spin it like that. And if so, we're going to be in good shape. And I think we will be. A nice laser cut shims in here. And we'll go around and do that in all 4 places. Let's see if we can get these big heavy bearing caps in place. I have not totally finished these. I still got to drill out the oil hole in the middle, and I've got to put some oil grooves in them, but they're going to have to come back off, so we'll do that a little bit later on. If I mention these things are heavy, oh, I know I keep saying that, but boy, they are heavy. There we go. All right, that one is in place. Let's get the other side on. All right, I got my bearing caps on. Now we need to tighten them up, make sure everything will spin like it should. I'm pretty sure it will. Those are just snugged up. Let's see if we can spin this thing still. Oh yeah, it is a little bit tighter, but I can do it, and I think it's going to be just fine. So I'm happy with that. We've got that back on. We got the gear back on. This is just for placement right now, and this is going to help us get our bearings lined up that we need to pour for the drive shaft for this. So I think we're about done with what we got to do today on this or in this video, but I am going to show you at least one of the gear that's going to be driving this thing, so you can kind of see how this is all going to engage over here on the side. So hopefully you can kind of see what's going on here. I've just kind of got these mocked up right now, but of course this is the big gear we just put on. These are the 2 shafts that we got to pour Babbitt bearings for next that will be down here in the main base. And this is where we get our gear reduction that's going to give us that mechanical advantage to be able to spin this thing with no problem. So on the big gear, we got a small gear. And then this is going to, of course, be sitting in the Babbitt. I got to get this properly positioned and spaced and all that, which we'll be working on coming up. We'll get those bearings poured, and then there's a big gear that goes here that's not on here right now. That gear engages with this small gear, and then that one comes out this shaft, and there's a big pulley out here that's got a large diameter on it. So when you belt this thing up and you're turning this pulley out here, I'll have to go do the math and figure out what the gear reduction is, but you're probably going to have to turn in this pulley, I don't know, I'm just going to guess 50 times to get one revolution of the big drum up here. But what that gives you is a lot of mechanical advantage. We'll be able to turn this out here very easily. It's going to be turning, we'll be turning much faster than this one here. We'll be turning much slower, but you'll get that mechanical advantage to get that crushing going on. And also, this machine runs really slow. It's not like it's flying through. This thing's going to be pulling that cane through, and it's going to crush it. So you don't want it turning real fast. And in this gear reduction, like I said, I'll have to do the math and figure it out, but I'm guessing 50-to-1 ratio. So that pulley's going to have to turn 50 times just to get this one to turn, or somewhere along there. I'll see if I can count the teeth up and figure it up for you guys and let you know probably in the next video. But that's kind of the game plan here, is to get these bearings poured next, and yeah, then we can start working on the rest of the things on here. I think once this is done, this is kind of the next big thing. Once this is done, most everything else on here is pretty straightforward, but this is going to require a little bit of alignment and getting everything set up just right to be able to do these. Fortunately, these shafts have been replaced. These are not the originals, so they are in pretty good shape. They were sandblasted and primed, so I'm going to have to take these over to the lathe probably and just polish them out, get the primer off the area where the babbitts are going to run, and they were pretty rusty, but I think they'll polish out just fine. But we'll be able to use these shafts here without having to replace them or do a lot of work to them. They're not badly pitted or anything like that, like the original shafts were on this thing. So there you go. That's kind of where we're at, making good progress on this cane mill project. Hopefully get this thing knocked out here before too terribly much longer. And there you go, guys. With that, that's going to be a wrap for today. Boy, this one was a workout. There's a lot of heavy stuff on this cane mill. Thank goodness I got this gantry crane. I don't know what I'd do without it. I wouldn't be doing this project without it, to be honest with you. But we are making good progress and moving on. So, guys, that is a wrap. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please, please, please subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already done that, hit that subscribe button. It really helps out a lot. If you liked what you saw, hit that like button down there. That also helps out with the algorithms. Leave a comment down below if you can. That also helps out a lot with the algorithms. And as always, a big, huge, huge thank you to all you guys out there who's helped support my site financially through Patreon and PayPal. It is what allows me to take the time to shoot these videos, do the editing and everything else that goes along with them, so that I can share it with you guys and you can see what's going on in the shop. And with that, there's links in the description down below for that. And with that, guys, we are going to get out of here. We'll catch you on the next video again. As always, thanks for watching.